Hi guys, hope everybody's well and settled into their new week. I just wanted to have a chat today because having spoken to a couple of people who I know to be believers and wanting to just, talk to them about some of the goodness of God and what He's doing, I've kind of felt on occasions the energy shifted a bit. And so when I dig a little deeper and ask what's behind it, they've kind of expressed their slight disappointments in God. And so I wanted to talk today about spiritual setbacks because they are a real thing. So I wanted to talk a bit about that. So the thing is, when we start on this journey with God and we are hearing from Him and we are talking to Him and He's given us all these visions and stuff, it's sometimes easy to get carried away. And I think oftentimes with a spiritual setback, what's behind it is that we've gone from a place of listening to a place of dictating because we now, attend church, know a bit of scripture, do the worship songs, we're not swearing as much, we're tithing. We believe now that anything God speaks into us or anything that's of our heart, God's going to give it to us. And so when that doesn't come to pass, we can sometimes feel a little bit disappointed. And I want to encourage you today because that's not how a faith journey works and that's not how God works. I get it. We get into this renewed relationship with Him and He's given us these downloads in our heart of what's to be. But oftentimes when He does that, because of the control freaks by nature that we are, we get ahead of ourselves. We run away with it. We start to romanticize what that blessing's going to look like, or we start to, we just run off with it. And when said blessing doesn't look like that, we can get in our feelings. But I want to encourage you today because the God we serve is a faithful God. However, it's not for us to ever try to go ahead of Him. And more often than not, when we do, it's not to please Him. It's for the approval of man because we are now in this faith journey and we're starting to feel some blessings. When He's starting to talk the big blessings to us, the reason why we romanticize and decide what that's going to look like is because we are wanting to prove that our God exists, or that approval of man. But the thing about God is He is not like man, and the way He does things carnal minds will never comprehend. God does not show us the whole vision. He gives us little bits of little increments so that we can take the necessary steps and do the necessary work. Just because He sends you on that course or to that uni doesn't mean you're going to go into that job in line with that course or that profession in line with what you studied at uni. But this is why we need to stay sensitive to the Spirit so we can always hear Him accordingly. Because more often than not, A plus B doesn't always equal C with God. He gives us the little increments needed so that we will take the necessary steps and do the work. And at any point, it could shift in direction. Often, a spiritual setback is a test of faith. Even though you've come to know Him, are you waiting on Him? Are you trusting Him to guide your steps? Or are you thinking because you know Him now, all your heart's desires are going to be granted to you, which isn't the case? We need to not only stay sensitive to the Spirit, but we also, and I talk about this often, keep our hearts postured to Him so that we can hear His directions clearly. Sometimes it can be disappointing when we have thought that we are going to get one thing and it doesn't happen. But if you are really tapped in with Him, whilst you may feel a little bit disappointed, you would never take it as a reason to backslide or start to disbelieve. Because if you know Him, you know that He loves us and He knows what's best for us. And so His no, or what might look like a no, may not be that. It just may not be not yet. And then there's also the point where if you have gone outside of Him, or you have run away with the vision, you may not have done your part in order to get the blessing. And a lot of people were guilty of that. They hear it, they feel it, but they sit in it without doing the works and expect the blessings to rain down. The Bible clearly says faith without works is dead. So unless you're doing your part, you are not going to see the fruit. But that's the part a lot of people don't want to speak on, because that takes accountability. But this is where we have to be accountable on our faith journeys, where we're all going to trip up at some point. But if we are accountable, then we can do better the next time. It doesn't mean you jump ship and sit back. I mean, you can, but you're only going to delay your victory, delay your blessings further. So I say that because I see it, but I feel quite uncomfortable when people believe they are owed something to a point where they're willing to go outside of God for it. I can't get with that, because anything you go outside of God to get, you need to stay outside of God to keep. And personally, I'm not willing to even enter those realms. I trust him. And as I said, a spiritual setback isn't a no. It's not an angry God punishing you. It's a test of faith. Sometimes we give too much credit to the devil, saying that he's stopping you from this or he's blocking that. Yes, he does sow seeds of doubt, but more often than not, we will be the ones to block because of our lack of belief, or our lack of faith, or our lack of trusting God to give us what we need. So I just wanted to quickly step in with that, because I see that it's a real thing. But it shouldn't be. I mean, it should be in that, okay, give yourself time to grieve what it is you thought you wanted, but get back up quickly and get back on board and get back on assignment and get back in right standing with God, so that you can work towards what it is that he does want for you. If you sit in your setback, then that's a clear sign that you are not ready to surrender to God. And therefore that's going to hinder your journey even more. You have to get to a place of surrender. They don't speak about it in sermons and on songs and in the Bible if it's not real. I understand the world we live in, but this is why he wants us to be removed from the world's ways, so that we can understand his ways. And I promise you, if you shift your heart to do that, what looks like a setback will suddenly start to make sense, because the reality is he knows what we need. And it's not that he's not going to grant us our heart's desires. Yes, he is, and yes, he does. But what also happens is, by posturing your heart towards him, you allow him to do the renewing, the cleansing, the washing of your heart, so that your desires align with him and his word. There are things that I haven't got in the past that I wouldn't say it angered me, but upon reflection, by the time I realised that I wasn't going to get those things, I no longer desired them anyway, because he'd done that renewing within me. And so that's what I encourage you to do the real work. And this is another reason why I promote having a personal relationship with God. I know a lot of people come to Christ and the first place they go to is church. I'm not anti-church. The issue is when your relationship is solely dependent on a third party, you're not going to get to know him for yourself. So therefore, when you think you are owed something based on a download you had or a conversation you had with him and it doesn't come to pass, you are going to be set back, because there's the void in the relationship, because you are used to having that relationship with him via third parties. There is nothing wrong with church. Enjoy your worship, but come to God as an individual. Come to him for intimate, personal relationship as your Father in heaven. Get to know him for yourself and have that dialogue with him, so you can understand what it is he needs from you and what he requires from you, and you can work towards that. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Yes, spiritual setbacks are real, but they're not always what we deem them to be. They are a test of faith for God to know that we are on this journey for the right reasons, and that we're not just showing face and posting quotes in a means for him expecting him to show up. He is not man, and he knows us. We cannot manipulate him like we manipulate man. He knows our hearts. And so it's time to clean up, fix up, and posture that heart towards him so that he can do the work in you. And it's not always going to be comfortable. Listen, it's not always going to be comfortable, but it will be in our best interest. And when he does give you a download, as I said before, he gives it to us in little increments. Just do your work. You have no one to prove anything to. The opinions of man are not our concern. Just do the work and see where it goes. Stop jumping and getting so excited to go ahead of him. Let's remove ourselves from that space, that mentality, that headspace, and start seeking him in everything so that he can point us and guide us accordingly. Because I know for fact, by surrendering, by letting him guide my steps. Listen, there's so many things I've done that in the back of my mind I thought I might know what it's about, but I don't even try to overthink it. I just do my little part. If he gave us the whole vision, we are man, we'll sabotage that with before our time. It's about obedience, it's about right standing. But I just want to say, listen, this journey is not for the faint-hearted. I've said this before. If you are getting in your feelings based on something you believe God hasn't done for you, then you need to check you. You need to check your heart's posture. You need to check your desires. And you need to also check your level of surrender, your level of faith. And are you genuinely believing him, or are you just singing it in the hope that something's going to show up? But not coming at anybody, but I did want to put that out there because it is a real thing. And we serve such a loving, faithful God, but we have to do our bit. And yes, he does understand the world that we live in, and he does understand the temptations that we have and the things that are thrown in front of us. But he also expects, if we're going to do this with him, that we come with a correct heart. And when we don't, and when we do trip up, don't stand in it. Just humble yourself and repent where necessary. I hope everybody is having a good week so far. I have started my new job now, so I won't be able to post as often. But if I am going to continue on this YouTube journey, I will hopefully touch base with you guys soon. Look after yourselves and take care. Bye.